be closer where I can read it because this isn't my normal setup. Hi everyone, welcome to the Goldfish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is Tuesday, February 13th, 2018. And today is a special report from Dr. Scott Warner from St. Germaine. Very important message. Let's welcome Dr. Warner with us. How are you today?
You know, I am absolutely fabulous. My ankle is healed up. I've had such good response from so many people, and thank you for your prayers. Thank you for everything that everybody has sent me. I mean, I even had somebody send me some holy water from Fatima, Portugal, and people have been sending me creams and salves and holograms, all kinds of stuff. And so, you know, the response has just been beautiful, and thank you so much. And you know, I have a very grateful heart for everybody who's listening to this report, because we're the ones who are here to change things, and things are finally changing. And so the message from St. Germaine is, you know, there's been a lot of people being discouraged because we've been trying to get things changed for years now. And there is hope, there is change, and it's occurring currently. A lot of things that are happening are getting rid of the deep state and the government. They're getting rid of all the blockages that the cabal has placed in front of us. And so I'm supposed to tell you from St. Germaine himself, because he's been working hard. He was like, I've been working for centuries to get this done. And here we are, we're getting uptight about a few decades. But his message is things are shifting and things are changing. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about these sort of things and what we can do to keep our spirits uplifted, to keep us focused and not focusing on the negativity, but focusing on the positivity. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that too, because St. Germaine says we are very, very powerful creators. And when two or more of you are gathered together, you can move mountains. Jesus even talked about this in the Bible. And so it's been fascinating because we are becoming faster manifestors too. So when you focus on negative things, you're actually creating more of the negativity. And so we need to keep our minds focused on good, positive activities, thoughts, and creating good things. And the way we do that is St. Germaine has a very interesting program. And he developed these St. Germaine sanctuaries back in the 1930s. And they would come, it was really interesting, they'd have this podium literally appear in the center of a room that was like a speaker. And it would come through the etheric energies, and certain energies would appear around this box that would speak to them. And different ascended masters, different gods would come in, different Elohim, and they would speak and give messages of hope to the people. And during the 30s, you know, they were coming out of the Great Depression. And a lot of people think, oh, 1929, it lasted a year or two. But no, it lasted clear up until World War II. That we had this horrible depression. And luckily back then, most people lived on farms and they could produce their own food, you know, so they could survive. And they had water supplies, wells, and different things. And today, most of us are living in big cities. We're very dependent upon, you know, the few people that are farmers that are left producing good food for us. And, you know, the corporations have taken over a lot of these farms through legal and different ways. And so now we've only got about 5% of the population providing us with food, whereas back in the 30s, you know, the 1930s, 95% of the people were involved in farming and bringing the food forward. And so, you know, times have really shifted. And the thing St. Germaine has said is it's given us a lot of time, because we don't have to be out there farming all the time. You know, instead we're able to focus on being doctors, lawyers, you know, mathematicians, teachers, all these different other things. And that has been what has made America so great, is we haven't had to focus all our time on the basic needs of food, water, you know, good air, those kind of things. And now we've been able to move up and focus on social issues, all kinds of things. And it's actually created more division in the American people. And currently, you know, I've talked about this before, the division has become, you know, in between ideologies, political parties, all kinds of things. And St. Germaine wants everybody to realize America is where the freedom of the world is going to come from, that he's worked very hard to make the Constitution, make, you know, the Declaration of Independence, and he's very happy that Mr. Trump is literally working for we the people, which is all of us. And it's not a political thing, it's a freedom thing, that we're going to get freed from all of the tyranny, all of the executive orders, all of the different laws that have created an environment of slavery. Here in the United States, it's quite amazing that this has happened. And our job as we the people is to have faith and express to those in charge that we want to be free, that we want to have our liberties restored, we want to not be afraid anymore. You know, the whole terrorist thing was built to instill fear in all of us. And, you know, when 9/11 occurred, I can remember exactly where I was. I was in my office, I was chelating people, and all of my staff, all of a sudden, you know, the TV was on in the chelation room, and all of a sudden all my staff was in the chelation room watching the Twin Towers, you know, and they're all, you know, just mesmerized on this fear. And I had to turn off the TV and say, let's get back to work and getting these people healthy, because literally they totally stopped doing everything and were mesmerized with this Holocaust, you know. And that's what we've got to do, is turn off the TV and get back to work and start doing things that will create our freedom. You know, people don't write letters anymore, and St. Germaine wants you to write letters to your representatives, to your senators, even write a letter of hope to Mr. Trump, to President Trump, because, you know, we all need encouragement. We all need to express what we truly desire, and we need to do this through active energy. Everything that we create starts as a thought, and that thought, we put emotion to it and attention to it, and it starts becoming an action. And so what St. Germaine wants you to do is have hope, have faith, and express what your desires are. In order to get the free energy devices, we need to, you know, call up the patent office and say, look, if new people are making these things, we want you to leave them alone so we can get off the oil, so we can start using these free energy devices and get them to all the people. And we want you to release the diagnostics and protocols for these holographic med beds, so that we can start using these in our medical, because you know the medical is taking up 18 to 20% of our gross national product, and it's a system that is not healing the people, we the people. It's actually very detrimental. We just had a lady who worked for me for 12 years. She underwent a surgery 2 years ago, and literally that surgery was the beginning of her death, because it caused, they actually ripped a hole in her intestines. They had to go back in and remove part of her intestines to save her life, and then she got scar tissue, and her bowel closed down again, so they had to go in and do another surgery. You know, it was just literally the beginning of the end. And this was a very spiritual woman, had never used the medical system before, and it was quite interesting because I advised her against using it, but she didn't know what else to do, and her family was pressuring her, and so she died on Sunday. A very, very good friend of ours, and you know, admittedly she was 79 years old, but you know, it was an early death. She was healthy as a horse before she got that surgery, and it was the beginning of the end. So we need to demand better systems. And the only way we can do that is through actively involving ourselves in the system. We can't depend on others to do it. We are the ones that need to do it. And we need to talk to each other. You know, it's fascinating because we've gotten to be a society where for our information, instead of depending on each other, we depend on, you know, the news, or we depend on this or that. And because of that, the cabal has been able to more easily control us. And so we need to get ourselves communicating with each other at a grassroots level, which means your community. And then, you know, getting people to represent you and putting people in office that will bring what we truly desire to the higher echelons. So, you know, it's fascinating because, you know, it's very lonely being somebody like me, because, you know, I'm always out there speaking to big groups, and quite frankly, I don't have personal friends that I go do things with all the time, because I'm out there doing things with many, many people all the time. And my job is to get the message out there. And so, but I'm even going to focus on talking to small groups around me more, talking to my neighbors, you know, exchanging these ideas, because there's a lot of people hear about all this stuff, but they're so busy with their lives, they're not involved. And that's how things stay the same, is when all of us are so busy, so involved in our own life, that we don't reach out and make differences in our communities, in our counties, in our states, and in our nation. And what we need to do is turn off the dang TV and go talk to our neighbors. Turn off the radio. Well, things like this are very good, because you're learning about what is real, the real truth. And in order to make a difference, we have to take that truth out and discuss it with our neighbors, because a lot of our neighbors aren't aware of this. Believe it or not, the population who have waked up or have awoken and know the truth is only about 0.05% of the population. Not very much. So you're like an elite group, and we've got to get the message out further. Now, it's interesting because Saint Germaine is working with President Trump. He's told me so. And we have manifested more DNA into President Trump, and he has evolved and he's becoming more aware. You'll notice that even his speech has changed. And some of the things he's saying, you know, he's being a little more careful with his tweets, but he's, you know, just telling the truth, and everybody gets shocked, you know, with this truth. And they you know, try to make him look like he's crazy. Well, let me tell you, people who believe like you and I, everybody thinks we're a little bit crazy because they've been so indoctrinated and so brainwashed, they don't realize when they even hear the truth that it's actual factual stuff. And so they condemn us and think we're crazy. But we're really not crazy. We're like the few, you know, reaching from the rooftops and calling out to the people that change is needed. Change is coming. And
there's no judgment in this, right, Scott? I mean,
say that again.
There's no judgment in this. We've been socially engineered, so it's not like
yes.
Nobody's fault. This is not about, you know, lecturing to anybody or, you know, making anybody feel guilty. This is about, we've all been here. We all had a difficult awakening, and this message is so timely, as all the messages from Saint Germaine always are, because people, I feel, are giving up. I feel people are giving up, and we are yet to, you know, really see the fruits of our labors at this point. I mean, all of these reports for a long time, we're getting close to 200. We're almost at our 200th Goldfish report, which is huge. And you know, it's just a sign that, you know, there's a need and a demand, and the more people who wake up, the more people who come and listen to these messages. So it's very timely. And but it's been socially engineered, and we have
yes.
We have all fallen for it, all of us. And you know, Scott, we talk about this in our Goldfish reports all the time with Winston, and also in my POTUS reports, that people do need to participate. And I love that St. Germaine's message was to write letters of encouragement to President Trump. And I definitely encourage our viewers to do that. That is a wonderful, marvelous, and very, you know, loving idea. I think he would appreciate it, because we have the mainstream media, of course, the Mockingbird media, who censor him. But, you know, in terms of, you know, health freedom is what you're talking about too. And when he announced that he was going to go after the, you know, big pharma, you know, then his son's wife ended up with a powdered envelope at her residence. The report I read was that it was cornstarch, but still, it's kind of, you know, they just will stop at nothing. I mean, the opposition, which is why you're saying exactly what you're talking about. We need to have faith, so timely these messages. But please continue. I just wanted to put that note in there, because I didn't want anybody to feel like, you know, to feel guilty or bad, or to think that in any way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, guilt, shame, and blame is a thing of the past. We don't want anything to do with those low vibrating emotions. You know, Saint Germaine is all about positivity, doing declarations, and knowing that our lives are going to be better. Part of that is, you know, setting our intent. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, because setting your intent is the basis of your everyday life. And all of us have set our intent to change the world. Because if I want the world to change, I've got to change. If I want the world to get better, I've got to get better. And that's what my intent has been. I'm going to be the best I can be. I'm going to be the most positive I can be. And I've got to watch my words. I've got to watch my thoughts, everything. Because everything that we think is being created now. All of these photons coming into the Earth from the universe. We're moving into a photonic belt, and that's one of the reasons this evolution is going to come about, is the photons and plasma are involved in what we're supposed to become, what kind of beings. You know, they've talked about, you know, a lot of the media is going, oh, we're going to evolve into silicon-based beings, which is what the cabal wants you to think, because silicon-based is robotic. And we're actually going to evolve into